They've all been missing, presumed dead for 5.5 years.
Parents, Will Cooper. I just wanted to circle
strap
back
yourselves in for an exciting ride. That is just a taste of what's to come on City TV this fall. Joining us to go through some of the exciting new shows we have lined up for you. Please welcome TV critic Bill Harris. And can I also say my hero, because there was a bug that wanted a piece of me, which you couldn't see during commercial break, and you got rid of it. Thank you so much, Bill.
I apologize. I was pawing at your dress. I don't want you to think the wrong thing, but there was a bug on you that was very persistent.
It was relentless. Now let's talk about the show that we just saw. It's called Manifest.
Speaking of relentless.
Speaking of relentless, two of the stars coming up in a little bit. It's very much being called The Next, or similar to Lost, but in reverse, in that it's this mystery thriller. So what's the premise?
You can almost call it Found, because what happens is plane takes off, passengers are enjoying their flight, it goes through some terrible turbulence. They get through it, the plane lands. There's only one problem. When they land on the ground, people are looking at them like they're ghosts, because the plane has been missing for 5 years.
For 5 years. And to them, they think no time has passed at all.
The people on the plane haven't aged, but everybody else has gone on with their normal lives. And of course, this causes some complications. For example, there are people who were engaged and they've now married someone else.
They've moved on.
Parents have passed away. There are all sorts of negative consequences. There are good things, though, too. There are people on the plane who had diseases that weren't responding to treatment. They get off the plane now. There have been advances in medical science, so suddenly the prognosis for those people are very good. So there's a lot to talk about, in addition to the premise of what the heck happened.
Love a good mystery thriller. Up next on the lighter side of life, a really hilarious-looking trailer called Single Parents.
I probably laughed harder at this trailer than any of the trailers that I saw this year. Taran Killam is a guy who you will recognize his face from Saturday Night Live. He plays a single dad who's new to the school. He comes in, he's trying to rally the other single parents to volunteer, and as we find out pretty quickly, they're not so keen on the volunteering and the getting involved as waiting till an appropriate time in the day to open wine. So there's a little bit of a culture clash.
They have a code, and a lot of those codes are being broken. This is hysterical. It's called Cool Kids. We actually have David Alan Grier on the show tomorrow. It'll be airing Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Talk to us about this.
The Golden Girls was an iconic show that we all remember. This is kind of another take on it for the 21st century. I guess it goes by the premise, what if high school comes back? What if suddenly you're in an old age home and it's about petty rivalries and jealousies and where you're sitting and who's sitting with who for lunch? So it's got Martin Mull, it's got David, as you mentioned, and the newcomer is Vicki Lawrence, who from the old Carol Burnett show. And by the way, how is it that she did not age from the time that I was a kid watching the Carol Burnett show? And she looks exactly the same. I don't get that.
I'm going one step further. She actually looks younger in this series than she did then.
I don't understand it. I have to know what her secret is.
It really does look laugh out loud in the vein of Golden Girls, and I'm going to even go as far as to say as Seinfeld in terms of the chemistry in the lines that I saw just from the sizzle reel. Okay, Murphy Brown returns. After 20 years, 1998 is when that final episode aired, and it was a 10-year-long run. Incredible show. I'm so happy that it's coming back.
It's it would seem that it was a show that was ahead of its time in its day, which makes you think that maybe now is the perfect time for it. In an era when, quite frankly, journalism is kind of under attack.
Fake news.
It'll be interesting to see what their take on this is. They apparently work for a cable news network now, as opposed to a magazine, which was the original show. They brought most of the cast back. Do you think that Candice Bergen has a chance to behave herself on Twitter slightly better than perhaps another?
Roseanne, I know, because we saw how well that did in the ratings. So there was that thirst for something of that vein, where you're talking politics, where you're covering sensitive issues, where you're covering, like you said, the fake news du jour, which is something that's constantly in the headlines. Who better than Murphy Brown to tackle that? That will air Thursday nights at 9:30 p.m. on City. And this is just a little wee taste. So for all of the details, breakfasttelevision.ca, you've been in the business for for 20 years.
Way too long.
Do you remember when Murphy Brown, the curtain closed on the first
I
airing?
certainly do.
Yeah, so it'll be exciting to see what happens next.
I'm glad that they got them all back. They have new cast members. Her son is now grown up, and he works for a rival network. So it's both a combination of the new and the old. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
All good stuff. Bill Harris, thank you very much. If ever there's another bug in town, I know who to call. We'll be back with more BT right after this. The extended